5-6 part 2. Today we're going to talk how do we graph a line when it's already in slope-intercept form, and then our ever favorite woohoo story problems. Okay, so here I have an equation in slope-intercept form and it wants me to graph it. So in order to graph this, I need to know what's my slope, what's my y-intercept. If I know those two things, as you learned in part 1 of this section, I can graph the line. Well, remember that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So I can see that my m has to be 3. And remember that if my slope is not in fraction form, we put it over 1. I can also see that b, since it's a subtraction sign, has to be -1. So then I know my y-intercept and I know my slope. So then I can graph the line. Start at -1 on the y-axis. Then from there, go up 3 over 1. And then I have my line, and I finish by drawing a line through those 2 points. So as you can see, slope-intercept form makes graphing a lot easier. We don't have to draw the big table, do all that work. We just know the slope and the y-intercept, and we're good to go. Now, of course, they're not always going to give you the equation directly in slope-intercept form. They have to make it interesting, you know. So, if they give you an equation that's not in slope-intercept form, the first thing you have to do is put it in slope-intercept form, and we do that by solving for y. And once again, we learned this back in chapter 2, how to solve for a variable. So we ask, what's happening to y? Well, the first thing is times 2. The second thing is add 3x. So once again, we want to undo those in the opposite order. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 3x. So here's my equation. I'm going to subtract 3x, subtract 3x. Now in slope-intercept form, we like the x to come first. So instead of writing this as 6 minus 3x, I'm going to write it as -3x plus 6. Those are the same thing, okay? The 3 is still negative, the 6 is still positive. I just rearranged their order. And then the second thing I have to do to undo times 2 is divide by 2. And when I divide by 2, I'm going to divide each term on the other side by 2. So then I have y equals -3 over 2x plus 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So now I have the equation in slope-intercept form. Now that I have it in slope-intercept form, I can figure out what m is and what b is. Notice here that m is -3 over 2, b is 3. So now that I know those two things, I'm going to start at 3 on my y-axis, then rise over run, remember, so I'm going to go down 3 over 2 to get my second point. And then once I have the 2 points, I go ahead and draw the line through the 2 points. So those, as you can see, require a bit more work, but that's okay because we like work. And then once we get it in slope-intercept form, we go ahead and graph it. Now I have a few more examples here just to clear up some things that cause confusion sometimes. So this first one I'm looking at, y equals 2/3 x. And most of the time I get, well, there's no b. Because remember, y equals mx plus b. So everybody says, well, where's the b? Well, the b's there They just don't write it because it's 0. So if you see an equation that doesn't have a b, remember that it's 0. So then, in this particular example, I would know, okay, b is 0, slope is 2/3. So then I start at 0 on the y-axis. I go up 2 over 3 to get this point right here. So then, once again, I just draw the line, and I'm good to go. So that's one issue that comes up. Another issue you can see over here, when there's no x. Now when there's no x, that means that your slope is 0. Okay? Now, I don't know if we've talked about this yet, but horizontal lines have a slope of 0. The reason is because when a slope is 0, it means the rise is 0. The run could really be whatever we want. Okay? So when I have y equals -4, it means b is -4. That's where I'm going to start. And my line never goes up at all, which means that it just goes straight across. So when you see something like this, where it has a slope of 0, that clues you in right away that you're going to have a horizontal line at that number. So y equals -4, that means I have, oh, I did that wrong. It should be -4. That means I'm going to have a horizontal line at -4. This way. Okay? And that line's supposed to be straight across. It's just not very good. Okay? I'm going to skip this last example here, but you can go ahead and try it on your own. And then see, you can ask me tomorrow if you did it correctly. The next thing we need to talk about are story problems. So here we have a closet organizer. Quite a job, huh? They charge $100 consultation fee, and then $30 for every hour it takes them to clean your closet. So then, what they want you to do, they'll usually show you the graph, but we don't really need it, so I didn't include it here, is they want you to write an equation that represents the cost as a function of the hours. So function, if you'll remember, that brings back good old function notation. Okay, and then we want to write an equation for the cost of this closet organizer. Well, the closet organizer is going to charge us $100 plus $30 for every hour. So 30 times x, if we call x the number of hours. So there would be our equation for the closet organizer. Now let me just rearrange this so that you can see something here. If I write that as 3x plus 100, hopefully you'll notice that that is in slope-intercept form. Remember, y and f of x are the same thing, so I see that I have a slope of 3 and a y-intercept of 100, or 30. What's wrong with me today? Okay, 30. So then, the next part is identify the slope. Well, the slope is 30. Identify the y-intercept. That's 100. And what do they mean? Well, 30 in this problem is cost per hour. And 100 in this problem is the initial fee. So when it says identify their meanings, they're asking what do those numbers mean in the story problem that they gave you. And then finally, they will ask you to find the cost or find whatever you're looking for at a certain value. So find the cost if the organizer works for 12 hours. So that means, what if X is 12? Well, I'd have 30 times 12 plus 100. So 30 times 12 is 360 plus 100. So if it took the organizer 12 hours to organize my closet, I would owe them $460. Okay? So that's how we do the story problems. I have another example here, so if you need another example, please ask me tomorrow and we will go over it in class. Other than that, that's all for 5-6. We'll see you tomorrow.